It's been a rough ride for some, especially those in Antigua, St. Kitts, and also St. Martin. They've reported anywhere from moderate to serious damage there, and the island of Nevis as well. So those areas now will have to deal with the process of cleaning up in the next couple of days or so. But certainly St. Croix, St. Thomas, and the island of Puerto Rico are under the gun as we watch this thing move west this afternoon. Hurricane Georges is what I speak of. Let's take a look at the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center, and you can see it 17.8 north, 64.9 west. It's about 85 miles east-southeast of San Juan. Winds at 110, so we've got a strong Cat 2 here. Pressure is at 972 millibars, so it's actually come up a little bit. It's been relatively staying right around 970 millibars, so not a huge change there. The U.S. and British Virgin Islands, as well as Puerto Rico and the Dominican, obviously under hurricane warnings here, and the watches are posted for the north coast of Haiti, the southeastern Bahamas, and we believe they will be posted later on today for the eastern provinces of Cuba. Dr. Steve Lyons joins us now. He's our hurricane expert, and certainly, Steve, this is a powerful hurricane, even though it wasn't 150 like it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, thank goodness it was not 150, or we would probably seen a huge amount of damage, because the wind damage goes up as a square of the wind speed. So even though you may feel unfortunate now, consider yourself fortunate compared to a 150-mile-an-hour hurricane.
All right, we got our problems. So this is the current satellite picture I want to show you. And what we'll do is basically zoom in on this area right here. Steve, what is the latest detection that you can find about this hurricane and look at the satellite?
Well, you can see what is considered to be an eye circulation that is roughly right in here now, and a very heavy band of heavy thunderstorm activity on the back side of the circulation. That's sort of the eastern eye wall, if you will. And there's also some heavy thunderstorms moving up on the northern side as well. And this thing continues to push rather quickly off toward Puerto Rico, and it's going to the western edge of the eye wall is almost to extreme eastern Puerto Rico already.
And just to get you oriented too, that's St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John's, Tortola, and we heard word out of Tortola that there hasn't been that much damage up there, so that's at least good news. But interestingly enough, as we look at the Doppler radar out of Puerto Rico, down around St. Croix, they didn't do too bad on the western side of the storm, but now that it's moved on off to the west, they're just getting nailed there on that east side.
Yeah, very heavy rain there, so that some flash flooding could be occurring, and also those thunderstorms, as we've mentioned repeatedly, could be bringing down some very strong winds to the surface, so hopefully they're still taking shelter.
Now, Steve, even though that pressure's come up a little bit, just looking at this from a radar perspective, does it look like it's getting a little better organized?
The circulation is better organized. Part of that, too, is the fact that the overall hurricane center is within the radar, which is right here, within the radar beam visibility, so you see the whole thing better. But the other thing to note, too, is even though the pressure's come up just a hair as well, the symmetry of these rain bands is very important, because it's bringing down much stronger winds than it would have even though the pressure were lower.
Now, of course, the power's out at St. Croix. They've turned off the power at St. Thomas, and that's for safety reasons as well. And we can't get any weather observations out of there. But what do you think the winds are with that core over St. Croix right now?
Well, we had mentioned before, and we talked to that emergency manager there had mentioned that gusts to 100 miles per hour, and they still should be getting gusts to around 100. But in the next couple of hours, those winds should be tapering off there, at least in the eastern section of those islands. So they should be getting a little bit better break here in another hour or two.
Do you think that'll be one of the hardest hit areas, just by looking at what you've seen today, comparing it with yesterday?
It's hard to say, because early on the intensity was greater, but they wasn't near as direct a hit. So we'll just have to wait and see. Puerto Rico is yet to be struck yet as well, and they could get some very nasty consequences from it, not just wind, but storm surge, flooding, flash flooding as well.
What kind of surge can we expect?
Well, the 4 to 6 foot range, 4 to 7 foot range is possible, but this area over here on southwestern Puerto Rico is particularly vulnerable to surge. So as the hurricane goes by in the southeastern sector, these winds over here, when they come up into this area, could drive some water up there that could be approaching 10 feet, depending on the strength of the winds at the time.
And then you've got an east-west oriented mountain range across Puerto Rico. What is that going to do for the rainfall?
Well, that orographic lift, as we call it, where the air lifts up over the mountains, can produce locally double the rainfall that you would expect at the coast. So if you get 5, 7 inches at the coast, you could get 10 to 15 inches inland. And some of those typical small creeks or rivers could fill up very quickly. The flooding is typically related to the rate of rainfall and not the total amount of rainfall,
Right.
so we have to keep that in mind as well. It's a complicated thing, but flooding should be a problem.
Perhaps on a positive note, is Puerto Rico going to weaken the hurricane? The fact that it's going to go over Puerto Rico, or very likely could be spend a good bit of time over Puerto Rico.
Definitely any landmass that the hurricane tracks over will weaken it. Islands like this, though, keep in mind, the overall, the center is here, but the overall circulation is much larger.
Right.
So there's still a significant portion over the ocean, and it will come out somewhat intact and could potentially re-strengthen and keep going. And that's what the hurricane center